You seek me help? Tazdingo! I hear the summons. That be good choice, man.
What is it?
I hear the summons.
Greetings, my lord.
You seek me help?
Welcome.
Tazdingo! That be good choice, man.
burning to avenge.
My life for Nezul. I gladly obey.
You thought of that? Greetings. What is it now? I must hunt soon. Agreed. You thought of that? Greetings.
Welcome to our village.
More work?
What, mortal? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. What, mortal? Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. What is it now? That was my plan. Die. I hunger. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. That was
First blood.
You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Greetings. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. What is it? Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Your soul is mine. That was my plan. Die. Very well. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. I hunger. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan.
Town is under attack.
You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. Death rages. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed.
Our veterans' town is under attack.
You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Death rages. Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? night beckons. I must. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought
Our
of that?
brethren's town is under
Agreed.
attack.
Very well. That was my plan. Die. Very well.
Our
That
brethren's
was
town
my
is under
plan.
attack.
Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Die. Death rages. That was my plan. Your soul is mine. Agreed. Very well. I hunger. That was my plan. The night beckons. What is it now? Very well. You thought of that?
Our brethren's town is under attack.
That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. That was my plan. Very well. Die. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? What important? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well.
Our brethren's town
That
is
was
under
my
attack.
plan. What is it now? Very well. That was my plan. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Die. I hunger. Very well. Death rages.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Very well. I hunger. Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Die. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Death rages. Kill.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
The night beckons.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
What, mortal? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Dominating. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. Very well.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Agreed. Death rages. I must hunt soon. Die. You thought of that? Very well.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well.
Hello.
What is it now? What, mortal? You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Greetings. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Death rages. Die. That was my plan. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. Thought of that? What is it now? Very well. What, mortal? Agreed. I hunger.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Death rages. That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Fresh meat. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well.
Our brethren's town is under
Agreed.
attack.
That was my plan. I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. Die. That was my plan. Very well. Do you see something? I must hunt soon. What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. must hunt. Greetings. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan.
Our brethren's
You
town
thought
is
of
under
that?
attack.
Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
That was my plan. Greetings. You thought of that? That was my plan.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Your soul is mine.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
This battle bores me.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Your soul is mine. Death
Our brethren's town is under attack.
agreed.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
The night beckons. Very well. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Do you see something? Hunt soon. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that?
Our brethren's
That was
town is
my
under
plan.
attack.
Die.
Our forces are
What
under attack.
mortal? You thought of I am here, mortal. A Sethabalana. Child's play. Andufala.
Our brethren's town is under
A
attack.
Sethabalana. Evil is near. Do you see something? I am here, mortal. The night beckons. I must hunt soon.
Our brethren's town is
Very
under
well.
attack.
You thought of that? Do you see something? What is it now? Agreed. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Dominating! That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Greetings. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. What is it now?
Mega kill. Fresh meat.
Isherado.
Unstoppable double kill. Wicked triple kill. Monster kill. Ultra kill.
By the blood of the Highborn.
Andufala. The night beckons. Greetings.
Give me something to do.
What is it now?
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Greetings. Spread bores me. What, mortal? You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. Greetings. You thought of that?
Fresh meat.
I hunger. Death rages. Agreed. Your soul is mine. That was my plan. You thought of that? I hunger. Death rages.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
You thought of that? Agreed. What is it now? Very well. Agreed.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Of that?
Unstoppable double kill.
Agreed.
Killing spree.
1
town is under attack.
For now. Andufala. For now. For my people. Child's play. Andufala.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
The night beckons.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Agreed. You thought of that. Agreed. Dominating. You thought of that. Greetings. Very well. Your soul is mine. Double kill. That was my plan. You thought of that. That was my plan. I hunger.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
Die. That was my plan. Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that. Agreed. Very well. Agreed.
Our brethren's
You
town
thought
is
of
under
that.
attack.
Greetings, my lord.
Yes, my friend. I am here, mortal. What is it now? Isherado. I must hunt soon. Greetings. That was my plan.
Welcome to our village.
What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Fresh meat time. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Wicked sick. Monster kill!
Brethren's town is under attack.
Godlike! Triple kill! I am here. Do you see something? For now. Child's play.
Our brethren's town is under attack. Our brethren's town is under attack.
The night beckons. Is
Our
someone
brethren's
in
town is under attack.
That was my plan.
Our brethren's town is under attack.
What is it now? That was my plan. Very well. Greetings.
Our brethren's
Agreed.
town is under attack.
Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my
Our
plan.
brethren's town is under attack.
Agreed. Very spree. Double kill. That was my plan.
Town is under attack.
That was my plan. That was my plan. Killing spree. I am here.
Town is under attack.
Holy shit. Double kill. Night beckons. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. I must hunt soon. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed.
Our
Very
veteran's
well.
town is under attack.
That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that. Greetings. Your soul is mine.
Is under attack.
That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed.
Our
You thought of
veteran's town
that.
is under attack.
Very well. Agreed. Death rages. I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that.
Our
Agreed.
veteran's town is under attack.
Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed.
Our veteran's town is under attack.
Rather, what is mortal? Your soul is mine. You thought of that? Death rages. Very well. Fresh meat.
Our veteran's town is under attack.
Killing spree. You thought of that? Dominating. Double kill. Very well. Mega kill. Triple kill. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well.
Hello.
Greetings.
How may I serve?
What is it now?
What is your wish?
Greetings. What, mortal? Agreed. What is it now? You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Very well. What is it now? Agreed. Death rages. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that?